If you're a professional that's avoiding opportunities due to anxiety, then often it might not actually be anxiety. It is often a deeper fear, the fear of reputational damage. And until you can understand it, it's very hard to change it. Fear of reputational damage is one of the most common forms of anxiety I see amongst people that have hit a certain point in their career or want to get to a certain point in their career where they need to be visible in some way, whether that's public speaking, leading a roundtable at a company, being on a podcast, whatever it is, they need to be visible, and there is an anxiety stopping them from being seen. This can often be quite different to day-to-day anxiety because what it often is, it links to the fear of being seen and essentially the fear of being seen wrongly, the fear of being misunderstood, the fear of being seen as stupid, all of these social perceptions that can make us risk the fear of reputational damage. But we often don't have the language to explain it in that way. Often with the fear of reputational damage, it's not actually the reputational damage that matters the most for our anxiety. It's what that reputational damage would mean, either socially and or professionally. So for example, if I'm in a dispute with my neighbor and my reputation is damaged with my neighbor, I don't really care because it doesn't really mean anything to me whether my neighbor thinks badly of me or not. Now, in some situations, of course it would, but just in this example, it means nothing. However, if, for example, a bunch of other therapists were to be watching this video and started saying like, I'm a scammer, what she's saying isn't correct, like this is not factually true, etc., etc., and they all piled on, that would cause me a significantly different fear because it's the fear of professional reputational damage. It's what my professional tribe thinks about me. That then has an impact on my job. And if you're someone who cares deeply about your job, that can also feel like a threat to who you are. And then, of course, we worry about financial implications, etc., etc. For many people, the fear of reputational damage often culminates in almost a vision of them losing their job, not knowing what they would do, not knowing how they would earn money, and sort of this idea of being lost. And that's why when I say it's not just anxiety, it's because it's not just general worry about things. It actually has a really significant consequence on how safe we feel in our life. So why do we care so much when we know that actually it's not life or death and it probably would be okay in some format? Well, social psychology theorizes that the fear of reputational damage actually has evolutionary underpinnings. So when we think back to our caveman ancestors who lived in a tribe in a cave, your reputation in that caveman tribe meant life or death. If you were seen as disruptive to the group, a problem in the group, you had low status, whatever it was, you were at risk of not having food and shelter. A threat to reputation really meant a threat to your safety and survival. Now, for most of us, that isn't the case today, but our brain still operates on this hardwire, which is why it can feel like such a primal response when we feel there might be a threat to reputation. Essentially, we're primed to feel this way already, and then when you enter environments that require a lot of you to be visible, it activates this primal wiring. And for many of us, especially if you're very passionate about your profession, your professional community is a little bit like your caveman tribe. It's where you want to belong. It's where you want to be seen as succeeding. So it can really feel like you're being excluded from a group or humiliated in a group in that way. Many people also grow up in environments where reputation mattered. And it's probably unfair to say that reputation doesn't ever matter. It does. But many people grew up in environments where actually it mattered significantly for either how safe they felt or their relationships. So for example, if you grew up in a society that's very conformist, everybody does a specific thing and looks a specific way, and if you don't do that, there's quite a lot of social shame, that can really influence how strongly you might feel the fear of reputational damage in the future. And similarly, it might not be a broader social environment, but if your family had very high expectations or motivated through shame rather than positive reinforcement, that can also make you feel like reputational damage can impact your relational safety, make you feel like there's a loss of belonging, and contribute to a sense that you don't belong, which again is quite a primal feeling. We're wired to belong, so can feel like a threat to your safety again. So if you've ever experienced a threat to your reputation, even if it seems minor logically, but felt massive emotionally, then this is often why there's a lot of elements at play. So if you're avoiding things, or when you're experiencing it, you're spending all night obsessing about what could possibly happen and the consequence of that, then it's often more than straightforward anxiety. It's really linking to the fear of reputational damage and what that would mean. And the worst element of this is that it stops very capable and passionate people from actually accessing the opportunities that are available to them. People avoid meetings, public speaking, podcasts, public appearances, showing up on social media, whatever it is, they're avoiding things, or they're doing them with such suffering that is impacting how they're actually coming across, the very thing they're afraid of. And many people get stuck. And as a result, a lot of people get stuck at a certain point in their careers because it feels too risky emotionally and reputation-wise to move up any further. If this is you, it's very normal and common. This is a very strong, overwhelming fear that can be incredibly frustrating because it's very hard to logic your way out of. And it can get misclassified as general anxiety. And I'm not saying that it's not anxiety. Of course, we feel anxious, but it's not generalized anxiety. It has very specific roots in very specific social fears that we're somewhat primed to have. So if you've tried therapy, you've tried things and nothing's working because it didn't really touch on the fear of reputational damage at its heart, then that is often why, and it doesn't mean that it's unrecoverable or things can't change. Many people don't talk about the fear of reputational damage, or it goes misunderstood in therapy, because I think a lot of people are quite embarrassed to say it for fear of coming across self-centered or self-obsessed in some way. But actually, it's super normal and very, very human. So if this has helped you understand yourself, then do let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts, and let me know if any questions.